UFC Fight Night Almeida versus the Black Beast Derek Lewis. This is the Sao Paulo, Brazil card. So all Brazilian fighters and at least one of the two fighters on every single fight on the card. We're going to start at the bottom, make our way at the top, as we do always. First fight of the night here is Cowie Fernandez taking on Mark Diakase. Look, I was 50-50 on this, and the fact that I'm 50-50 is going to make me. I want to pick. You know what? I'm going to pick Cowie Fernandez. I'm going to pick Fernandez. I get it. Mark Casey, he can win this fight. He has the tools to win this fight. He has the wrestling to take down Fernandez, get him tired. He has good enough striking to probably stay safe, but he just makes so many mistakes, and it's hard to trust a guy like Mark Diakase, a guy that sticks his head in guillotines many times. He stuck his head in guillotines on more than one occasion. Been submitted 3 times. If you look at his submission losses, Joel Alvarez, all right, not the biggest deal in the world. That was off of a headbutt. He was going to lose the fight anyway, so it's not like people were, he got robbed because yeah, he should have been given time to recover from the headbutt, but he would have lost the fight anyway. Before that, he also got choked out in under 2 minutes by Rafael Alves and Dan Hooker as well a few years back in 2017. He's lost to, and then he also lost to Michael Johnson. That was a fight that went the distance. Michael Johnson was just a step ahead in that fight. DeCasey couldn't get any of the wrestling going, and he was, like I said, just a step ahead in the striking department. I just think Kelly Fernandez, like DeCasey, he's not much of a finisher. He's not a guy that's gonna, he does have some knockouts, on his record, but he's not a guy that's gonna flatline a ton of people. He's not the most powerful guy. He's more of a point fighter, to be quite honest. And you're fighting Kelly Fernandez, a guy that it's in Brazil. It's opening up the card. He's making his UFC debut. He's gonna come out, probably pretty, probably as fast as he can to try to look for an early finish. I just think Mark Casey makes a mistake here. I don't know if Kelly Fernandez knocks him out with a head kick. I know Fernandez has multiple head kick wins. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but Fernandez is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's fighting out of Nova União, very good gym in Brazil. I'm seeing a lot of love for DeCasey this week, and I just don't understand why. I mean, I get it. He's the more experienced UFC fighter. He's fought the much better competition. He has the skill set to win, but he makes so many. You can't trust a guy that makes mistakes as much as he does. You can't trust a guy that leaves his neck open when he shoots on takedowns. I can't put my faith into a guy like Mark DeCasey. So I'm gonna go with the underdog, the first fight of the night. This could backfire if Mark DeCasey just can get the takedowns and just lay on top of him, or he can just outstrike him. But I think Fernandez can find a finish here over DeCasey, whether it be a guillotine, whether it be, outpointing him on the feet, because DeCasey's been very hesitant in his last few fights. He hasn't looked like the same striker that he once did. I mean, he's turned into a wrestler. So I'm going to go with Fernandez. Not the most confident pick, but he is an underdog. It's part of the reason why I wanted to pick him there. Next fight is Montserrat Ruiz versus Eduardo Mora. Excuse me. I don't think this is much. There's not much that needs to be said here. Montserrat Ruiz is not that good of a fighter, and Eduardo Mora is pretty dominant. I expect her to take down Montserrat Ruiz and either finish her on the mat or just win a decision. Whichever way she can, I just expect her to outgrapple Montserrat Ruiz. Montserrat Ruiz has been outgrappled before. Granted, I mean, it was Jacqueline Amorim in her last fight. So that was the third round finish for Jacqueline Amorim. I just don't think Jacqueline Amorim. Sure, she is very good at jiu-jitsu. She's very talented there, but she's not really the greatest fighter. There's a difference between being good at jiu-jitsu and being a good fighter. I don't think Jacqueline Amorim is really that good of a fighter. I just think she's, has very good grappling, and she was easily able to take down Montserrat Ruiz, and she's not even a wrestler. I do think Eduardo Mora is going to just bully her, take her down, make it look relatively easy. Big size edge too, 5'6" to 5 feet tall at 115. Eduardo Mora is a big 115, like 5'6" at 115 is pretty big. Yeah, I think Eduardo Moore, Smalls, Montserrat Ruiz. There's not much to say. We know why this fight's being made. The UFC wants Moore to win. It's in Brazil, so won't talk too much more about that one. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. Angela Hill versus Denise Gomes, or Denise Gomez, however you want to pronounce it. I'm gonna go with Denise here. I'm gonna go with Denise to beat Angela Hill, but Angela Hill is just one of those fighters where you think you think she's done. You think she's like, oh, she's not going to win, and then she does. She kind of has she has that style for upsets where she makes fights close. That's the problem. The one problem I see here, because I don't think Angela Hill is like very good. I just think that she has a style where she's tough. She can throw some decent volume, and she can fight for 15 minutes. For Gomes, I don't know if she should be able to land the harder shots. That's why I'm picking her to win as a slight favorite. She's 23 years old. To Angela Hill is about to be she's 38, about to be 39. She's definitely not in her prime anymore. She's actually going the opposite way. I'd say Angela Hill is on the decline. Her last fight was less than impressive. I know Mackenzie Dern has the grappling threat that you always have to look out for, but getting like rocked by Mackenzie Dern is a bad look when you're fighting Denise Gomes, who's going to really put heavy hands on you. She's going to be swinging for the fences, and if she clips Angela Hill, I could see her knocking out Angela Hill. Angela Hill is known to be pretty durable, but you can only be so durable against Denise Gomes. I picked Yasmin Yarigui to beat her, and that was a terrible pick. That was one of the worst picks I made because she lost in 20 seconds. She got knocked out in 20 seconds. So do I think it's going to be a 20-second knockout over Angela Hill? Probably not, but I could see her finding a finish, or I could just see her winning a decision based on the harder punches, the more powerful punches being landed by Denise Gomes versus someone like Angela Hill's pitter patter punches. So I'm going to go with Denise Gomes to get it done, by just being the fighter that's throwing with more vicious intent and landing the harder shots. We move right along to Vitor Petrino versus Modestas Bukauskas. Um, I just want to say every single Modestas Bukauskas fight is. I always bring it up. I probably shouldn't bring it up every single time, but I picked Modestas to win his last two fights. Nobody picked him against Tyson Pedro. Pretty much no one. There might have been like two or three people that I've seen, but an overwhelming majority were heavily on Tyson Pedro. I just didn't see it at the time. I said Modestas is, I thought it was going to be a close fight, but I was like, I think Modestas edges out a decision, and he did. He won the fight via decision. That was one of my better picks. He was a big underdog too. That was one of my better picks since I started the channel. But in this fight, I just don't see how much success he's going to have against a guy like Vitor Petrino, because Modestas Bukauskas, he just fights. He fights almost. I don't want to say he fights scared, but he doesn't fight like someone that wants to find a finish. He fights to make it the distance, if that makes sense. He wants to get to the scorecards and possibly, get a decision win, a close decision win. I don't know if that's going to be able to, if he's going to be able to do that against Vitor Petrino. Vitor Petrino is a strong. It's not even just that he's a strong guy. He's he can control people on the mat. He's that's where his strength actually is best, for holding people down and controlling them on the mat, on the ground. When you have someone like Vitor, who's 26 years old, built like a tank, um, has good power, not the most speed, but good power, can get takedowns, can hold people on the ground. His grappling's looking better. I mean, he just got a submission in his last fight. Granted, it was against Marcin Prachnio, who kind of sucks, but still, I mean, it's a UFC caliber. It's a somewhat UFC caliber win. For Modestas, I mean, he barely edged out a decision against Zach Palga. Um, the Tyson Pedro fight, I called that one. Tyson Pedro, I still am not very high. I picked him. I don't know what it is with Tyson Pedro and guys like him, Modestas. I feel like I have a pretty good read on them. Just because I said that, Modestas is going to go out there and win. But no, I do think I have a pretty good read on them. I think Modestas is good against a certain type of opponent. I think if you pressure him and if you make him fight, he wants to fight his fight. If you make him fight your fight, he's not going to have as much success. He's going to skirt around the outside. I don't think he's going to be, the one pressing the action. I could see this being a very close fight that goes to the scorecards, but it's one where I'm like, I wouldn't, minus 245 odds on Vitor is a little bit excessive in my opinion, but I do think he has the ability to beat Modestas Bukauskas. Modestas isn't a finisher for the most part, and when he does win, it hits the scorecards and he wins, oftentimes it's just him, skirting around the outside, landing more volume, slightly more volume, but also trying to stay safe. Like he's not really going for the kill. Whereas I feel like Vitor Petrino is going to be the one in the judge's eyes that's landing, that's going for the kill, that's the one pressing the action forward. Whereas Modestas is circling around the cage, trying not to get caught. So I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino. Next is Daniel Marcos taking on Victor Hugo. Um, Apparently, this fight's canceled because Victor Hugo missed weight. I'll tell you guys who I would have picked. Not that it really matters at this point, but I was planning on picking Daniel Marcos. Victor Hugo is out of the same. I'm not even going to get really. It's canceled. I shouldn't even get into it, but I was hoping that this fight would happen and people would see that Daniel Marcos, just because he had a split decision against Davey Grant, doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. I mean, the dude's seriously talented in the striking, and I thought he would have picked apart Victor Hugo, but that fight's canceled. I'll give the page a refresh here. Next fight, Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos versus Renat Fakhretdinov. Um, I'm going with Renat Fakhretdinov here. Listen, I don't hate people like I don't hate the Zaleski pick. I really don't. I think Zaleski is actually a very talented fighter. I think Zaleski is very talented. His striking is like very effective. He beat the absolute piss, and I mean he beat up Benoit Saint Denis badly. That was 2 years ago, pretty much, and that was a bad beating. You know what I mean? He really really hurt Benoit Saint Denis in that fight. But that was Benoit Saint Denis up a weight class on short notice. Regardless, it's still Benoit Saint Denis. So you have to look at this Zaleski guy and be like, okay, this guy can cause some serious problems. But against Renat Fakhretdinov, Zaleski's about to be 37 years old, right? Renat Fakhretdinov's 32. I know the competition level is in favor of Zaleski. I know the striking is probably, if it stays on the feet, it's probably going to be Zaleski winning the fight. But Renat Fakhretdinov has a monster straight right hand. I mean, his straight right is money. He dropped Kevin Lee with the straight right and then subbed him right after. Dropped Brian Battle with the straight right hand. His straight punches, especially straight right hand, people think his striking sucks. I don't think it sucks at all. I think he knows what he's doing. He wants to get the takedowns. He wants to wrestle. He wants to grapple. But if he has to, strike to set it up, he'll throw some, fast right hands down the middle and try to clip you and then take you down. I think the same thing could happen here. I was not a fan of Zaleski against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. I don't think very highly of Abubakar Nurmagomedov. He's probably the worst out of all the Dagestani guys, him or Tagir. Honestly, I think he's worse than Tagir Ulanbekov. Abubakar's not very good. People see that Zaleski beat Nurmagomedov, and they're like, wow, he beat Nurmagomedov, and Nurmagomedov's a wrestler. It's like there's levels to this game. Abubakar is not even close to the other Dagestan guys, not even close to Renat Fakhretdinov's level, nowhere close. I think Renat's, he's very dangerous. He's more dangerous than people give him credit for on the feet. And I think once he gets Zaleski down, I think Zaleski's going to have a hard time. Even if he does get up, Renat's going to take him back down again. Renat can push a grappling pace, a wrestling pace for 15 minutes. And I just think that's what's going to happen. I think he's just going to push that pace for 15 minutes. I don't think Zaleski gets finished here. Zaleski is pretty durable. I don't know if he's even been finished in his pro career. He's been finished one time by knockout and twice by sub. I mean, that was a long time. His last time he got knocked out was 2019 by Li Jingliang. And then if you look, he hasn't gotten submitted for a decade. So before he even got to the UFC. So I think he's good enough to survive 15 minutes, but I just think Renat Fakhretdinov, it's his time now. Zaleski's he's a very talented fighter. I'm not taking anything away from him. I just think this is I think this is a fight for Renat to go in there, show people that, he can strike a little bit. I'm not saying stay on the feet. I'm saying show people that he's not just one dimensional, that, he can blast you with a straight right hand if you're, thinking about the wrestling all the time. So that is my pick for that one, Renat. Next fight is Elves Brenner versus Kanan Kruczewski. Kruczewski. Uh, this is a catch weight of 165. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I had an entire page written about the Esteban Ribovic versus Elvis Brenner fight, and I would have picked Esteban as an underdog, just to let you guys know. But in this fight, I mean, I don't have too much to go off of for Kanan. I mean, he has some decent wins on the regional scene. Beat on the Contender Series, won via rear naked choke about a month ago. I don't have that much information about him, to be completely honest. I'm going to pick Elvis Brenner here. He's a 2-1, about a 2-1 favorite. He has the UFC experience. He's a younger guy, 26 to 32 years old. I think he's also like, he beat Guram Kutsaladze, which, I mean, it's a pretty damn good win. I know he was getting beat for a lot of that fight, but the fact that he stayed in there and won in the third round goes to show he's got a ton of heart. I just have to see, maybe Kanan comes in here and, looks amazing, but I have to see it first. I got to go with the guy that I know is going to put up a hell of a fight, a shoot to box guy. It's hard to pick against shoot to box fighters, especially someone like Elvis Brenner. So I am going to go with Brenner to win. I think he's just going to push that. He's going to get in your face. He's like a Charles Oliveira type. He's going to get in your face. He's going to throw down. With I don't want to say with reckless abandonment, but he's going to throw down. And if you're not ready to throw down, he'll probably be able to finish you, or at least beat you over the three. So my pick is Elvis Brenner here. Moving right along to a fight that I am a little bit more, I guess you could say, interested in, or a little bit more like kind of 50-50 on, is a better way to describe it. It is Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosian. And this is another one that I wrote quite a lot about in my notes here. Rodolfo Vieira, and by the way, the Ismail Bonfim fight, I just found out it's also off the card. So it's like Bonfim off the card because he missed weight by 3.5 pounds. Can't blame Vince Pichel there. Pichel's 40 or 41 years old. So, you can't blame him for not taking the fight against Bonfim. So 2 fights already on this card are done. Regardless, though, Rodolfo Vieira, Armen Petrosian. This is the fight that everyone's arguing about. This is basically the civil war of the week. I think that's the term that people use. People are going back and forth on this one. No, Vieira is going to win. Petrosian is going to win. There's different sides. They're about even on the odds. They're both about pretty much even money. So at the end of the day, who am I going to pick? I was really thinking about Rodolfo Vieira, but I'm not going to pick him. I'm not going to pick Rodolfo Vieira. I'm actually going to pick Armen Petrosian. And this could come back to bite me in the ass if Armen Petrosian just gets, mauled and submitted in the first round. But this is just one where I can't pick somebody that has striking like Rodolfo Vieira. You know what I mean? I can't pick someone that has his level of striking. His level of striking is bad. He almost got knocked out by Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage almost beat him, and people are still. If Adolfo Vieira wins, then that just means Armen Petrosian's the biggest fraud of all time. And I'll admit it. If Armen Petrosian loses, I'll admit he's the biggest fraud ever. But I think Armen Petrosian's pretty skilled, at least in the striking department. I think he has to know what's coming here. If he has a brain in his head, I hope he has a brain in his head. If he does, he knows that Rodolfo Vieira is going to shoot takedowns. He's going to grapple with him. He's going to want to get him to the mat, get him flat on his back, and try to pass into mount or pass into a dominant position, take his back. Just look for a submission. That's what he's going to do. That's his path to victory. Armen Petrosian's path to victory is surviving early, not getting taken down and controlled and mounted and, getting subbed. If he can stay away, if he can stay safe enough in round 1, I think round 2 and 3, he'll definitely have the better cardio. I think his striking's definitely a level ahead. Um, and Armin Petrosian, he's never fought someone like Adolfo Vieira, but he's never been subbed either. Armin Petrosian's fought two very good grapplers in Caio Borralho and who was it was RoboCop and Caio Borralho. Both of them, I know they're not on the level of Adolfo Vieira. Adolfo Vieira is an elite black belt, one of the best. Like he's very elite. But with that being said, MMA is not jujitsu. We've seen it a million times. Who was the last guy? Adolfo Vieira is a lot better than what was the guy's name? I can't believe I'm forgetting now. The guy that fought Charles Jourdain. I forget, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but Adolfo Vieira is not just gonna just fall on his back, and he's not gonna pull guard. Like he'll look for takedowns. He'll look for takedowns. He'll look to get in top position. Um, he's not a quitter. He won't just give up on himself. So it is going to be a tough fight for Armin Petrosian, and it is in Brazil, which could give another piece of the pie to Rodolfo Vieira here. But Vieira is a little bit older. Not that age really matters in this fight at middleweight, 33 versus 34. They're about the same age anyway. I just have to pick the guy that has better cardio, better striking, and it's just hard to pick a guy that I know has one path to victory versus a guy that Armin Petrosian, where if he stuffs the takedowns, he's basically, he's going to win the fight. I believe if he stuffs the takedowns. So, and Rodolfo Vieira, although he can take people down, he does have the ability to do that. He's not a wrestler. You know what I mean? It's not like he has like amazing wrestling. He does have very good jiu-jitsu, but the pick's got to be Armin Petrosian just for that fact. Another fight on the main card. This is another one where some people are kind of considering picking Abus. I'm not picking Abu. I'm picking Kyle Borralho here. Abus Magomedov he got broken in the Sean Strickland fight. Say what you want about Sean Strickland. Listen, I think Sean Strickland's very talented. Didn't I thought Izzy would run through Sean Strickland, and I was dead wrong. Sean Strickland, he has a pressure boxing style that melts people, that makes them want to quit. And he made Abus Magomedov quit in the act. And I mean quit. He made this dude give up. It wasn't that Sean Strickland was, knocked him out cold or flatlined him. Or he broke Abus to the point where Abus turned around and walked the other. He wanted out. He turned his back and was walking away from the fight. He did not want to be in there. Strickland broke him mentally. I think the same. I'm not saying Kyle Borralho is he's not the striker that Sean Strickland is, nowhere close to it. But I think Abus has that point where he breaks. I think if you can push Abus to that point, he will break. Borralho is, first round's going to be the question where, okay, Abus Magomedov can come out early in the first round, throw a lot of, throw some dangerous kicks that Borralho has to be prepared for. Borralho sometimes likes to fight with his hands down. I don't think that's a smart idea here against Abus Magomedov, who does have good kickboxing. But for being a Magomedov, for being someone he's training out of Germany, but he's originally from Dagestan, I believe. He's not a. I don't think his grappling is near Borralho. I think Borralho has the better grappling here. I think if Abus Magomedov starts to slow down in the second and the third, I think Borralho can take him down, maybe even get to his back, just out grapple him. And I think that's the path to victory for Borralho. I don't think he should try to strike with Abus for too long, especially in the first round when Abus is fresh and going to be throwing a bunch of powerful strikes at him. Um, we've seen the front kick that knocked out Dustin Stoltzfus. I mean, Dustin Stoltzfus got front kicked in the face and then just finished in 20 seconds. You have to watch out with a guy like Abus in the first round. But I think if this gets out of the first round, I think Borralho can push a pace the second and the third round. I'm going to say 29-28 Kyle Borralho based off of rounds 2 and 3. I think he can out-grapple Abus Magomedov when Abus gets tired. I don't know if he finds a finish here. If he does find a finish, it probably will be later in the fight, second or third round, as I said. But the pick for me has to be Borralho. It's hard to pick on a guy that I just saw give up in the octagon, and I get it. Sean Strickland makes a lot of people, makes them look not their best. But just the fact that it was a second round, it's a 5-round fight. It's the second round, and you're turned around walking away from Sean Strickland. I mean, I know he's pressuring you, but you got to fight him. You got to at least try. Even if you're getting beat up, you got to shoot a takedown. Don't just walk away from him. So I'm going with Kyle Borralho here. Featured fight of the night is Rodrigo Nascimento versus Dontel Mays. Dontel Mays is a terrible fighter. I don't even. Is there really much more to say about how bad of a fighter Dontel Mays is? Both of these guys kind of suck. In all honesty, Rodrigo Nascimento. They already had a fight, by the way, in 2020. They had a fight a few years ago. Rodrigo Nascimento already beat Dontel Mays via submission. I don't see why this could be any different. Dontel Mays, he's one of the worst fighters. He's such a bad fighter. It's actually incredible how he's has wins in the UFC just because of how shit he is. He's bad. I mean, I went into this fight. I watched Rodrigo Nascimento tape. I watched his fights first before watching Dontel Mays. I was telling myself, wait a minute, I might pick Dontel Mays here. I was considering a Mays pick. But then I looked at Dontel Mays. I watched the tape. I watched his fights, and I was like, this guy is terrible. He's awkward, and it's not like a good type of awkward too. He's just awkward, stiff. I mean, he just fights like an idiot. His IQ is negative, and when I say his IQ is negative, it seriously might be. It might be in the negatives. He has zero fight IQ. Um, he's just a bad fighter, man. He got heel hooked by Cyril Gahn. Like his grappling sucks. His striking, I mean, I know he's got a little bit of power, but it's heavyweight. Everyone has power at heavyweight. He's just a bad fighter. I'm not going to even explain too much more into it. Rodrigo Nascimento, his striking kind of sucks. So if this stays on the feet, maybe Dontel Mays has a chance. I expect Nascimento working out of American Top Team. I expect him to implement sort of a similar game plan to Augusto Sakai, which is the last guy that beat Dontel Mays. And the fact that Augusto Sakai was able to hold Dontel Mays against the cage and take him down, it's just like I'm not picking Don. I think Rodrigo Nascimento can take him down, submit him, hold him against. I think he could, as long as he doesn't just strike at range with him. I think he wins the fight. So give me Rodrigo Nascimento, just for the pure fact of Dontel Mays being one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. Co-main event of the night is Gabriel Bonfim taking on Nicholas Dalby. I'm picking Gabriel Bonfim to win. That part's pretty clear. He's a huge minus 650 favorite, which is just ridiculous. But let's be honest, he probably should be a heavy favorite. Nicholas Dalby is I don't think he's as good as his record indicates. You look at 22-4-1 and you're like, okay, this guy's, he's won a lot of UFC fights. Like you would think he's a really good fighter. I just don't see it. I mean, I picked Nicholas Dalby to beat Muslim Salikov. I'll be honest. Like I thought he would be. I picked him to beat Muslim Salikov, and he did. Um, the thing is, I just don't see him being able to beat a 26-year-old Gabriel Bonfim. I don't think his grappling's good enough. I think Gabriel Bonfim has an extraordinary edge in the grappling department. Um, and I don't think Nicholas Dalby has the striking either to deal with the pressure of Gabriel Bonfim, because Bonfim will pressure you and throw heavy. And what happens when he pressures you and throws heavy? You don't want to be in there with him. You want to take him down, slow him down. And when you try to take him down, when you try to slow him down, that's when he grabs the neck. Looking at his 3 fights, or his 2 fights in the UFC and his Contender Series fight, Trey Waters. Waters takes him down. Actually, no, it was Waters had him in a guillotine, and Gabriel Bonfim passed over, and he wasn't even in side control. He was in half guard. He had a Von Flue from half guard. Then he fights Munir Lazez. Munir Lazez chokes him out, jumps on a submission extremely quick, and then the same thing happens with Trevin Giles. Jumps on another submission really quick. This guy, he has very opportunistic jiu-jitsu. He has dangerous striking on the feet because of just how he'll just pressure you and throw heavy. I don't see a way Nicholas Dalby can deal with it. Nicholas Dalby, if he wins this fight, it has to be by decision, I would imagine. I would imagine Nicholas Dalby, his only realistic possibility of winning this fight is just trying to stay safe. And I don't even know how he wins the fight, to be honest. I think Gabriel Bonfim is better everywhere than he is. I guess Nicholas Dalby does have good cardio and he is tough, so he could last all 3. I just don't see it though. I think the grappling edge is too high for Bonfim. I think he's a real prospect that the UFC is looking at, and I think he wins this fight. So give me Gabriel Bonfim. If I had to say method of victory, probably by submission, keep that streak continuing. Last fight of the night, um, definitely an interesting one as well. Good main event. Gelton Almeida, Derek Lewis. I hate it, but I'm picking against Derek Lewis. I'm picking Gelton Almeida. I'm picking against Derek Lewis again. I picked against him in the last fight. It didn't really work out for me because Marcos Rogério de Lima did get knocked out by Derek Lewis very, very quickly. But Gelton Almeida is a different level. Gelton Almeida is a dominating grappler. I think he blast doubles Derek Lewis, takes him down, and just mauls him, submits him inside of one round. If Gelson Almeida can't beat Derek Lewis, then he's like, I hate to call people frauds that are like clearly good fighters, but like if you can't take down Derek Lewis and maul him, then you're not gonna be able to beat anyone in that top of the division. I think Gelson Almeida, I think he passes the test here. Ruggiero de Lima, I feel like de Lima, he was also like 39, 40 years old at the time. So I get why he lost there. He's also nowhere close to the fighter that Almeida is. Almeida is the much better athlete than Derek Lewis. He's faster. He's a supremely better grappler. I don't see Derek Lewis just getting up. There's certain guys Derek Lewis can just get up against. He's not going to get up. I would find it insane if he was able to find a way up as soon as I think once Derek Lewis touches the ground, once Gelton Almeida gets his arms locked and brings him to the ground, I think Gelton Almeida, finishes them in the next like 2 minutes because I don't think Derek Lewis has very good submission defense. I mean, look at his fight against what was it, Sergey Spivak? That was less than a year ago. Derek Lewis gave up. And I know it's like, you can say you gave up. It's just, sure, you could say Sergey Spivak's just a better grappler, which is true. But Spivak, like, Sergey Spivak's not Gelton Almeida. So if Sergey Spivak can take him down and submit him with an arm triangle, there's no reason Gelton Almeida can't do the same. I see Gelton Almeida beating Derek Lewis in the first round. Not to mention Derek Lewis, the legal trouble, him driving like 130 or like something, not 130. I don't know how fast he was driving, but he got arrested for like reckless driving or whatever it was. So it's like, does he really care that much about this fight, or is he just taking it for a paycheck? I think he's taking it for a paycheck. Call me crazy. I just think it's the truth. He's going to Brazil. He has a knockout. He has a puncher's chance, and I mean that. Like, he has a puncher's chance, one punch, and if he doesn't land that one punch when Gelton shoots on him, he's going to lose the fight. So, give me Gelton Almeida. I could see it being similar situation to the Jairzinho Rosenstruck fight, where he just takes him down, maybe takes his time a little bit, but before the end of the first round, he gets a submission over Derek Lewis. And there it is. There are all the fights on the card. UFC Fight Night, Almeida versus Lewis. A few fights were canceled. Obviously, the Daniel Marcos fight canceled. The Bonfim fight canceled. Esteban Ribovic withdrew. I was really hoping to see him because I thought Ribovic actually was going to win that fight. But regardless, thank you guys very much for watching the video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.